Tribal leaders in North Dakota may seek the appointment of 4 more Indian people to a legislative committee studying the relationship between state and tribal governments. The 1979 legislature directed that the 14-member interim committee include 2 Indian members. The chairman of the Legislative Council, Representative Roy Hausauer of Wahpeton, appointed Harriet Skye and Leroy Chief. Skye is executive director of the Dakota Association of Native Americans in Bismarck and a former United Tribes official. Chief is administrator of the Indian School at Wahpeton. The executive director of the United Tribes, David Gipp, says tribal leaders had no objection to Skye and Chief themselves, but he says neither of the 2 was directly connected with tribal government. Hausauer offered to appoint a 3rd Indian member, but Gipp says he would not be satisfied with 1 appointment. He says there are 4 tribal governments in the state, so there should be at least 4 more appointments. And in South Dakota, Indian inmates at the Swiftbird Correctional Facility will have the use of a sweat lodge when the facility opens next month. Sweat lodges, which are also used at the state penitentiary in Sioux Falls, are a part of Indian religious culture and practice. The Bureau of Indian Affairs has named an Apache man as superintendent for the troubled Red Lake Reservation in northern Minnesota. James Stevens, a 16-year veteran of the BIA, takes over on Monday. He'll replace Nathan Joe Head, the tribal operations officer who was named acting superintendent in the wake of political turmoil. Head said he was not surprised by his transfer since he knew when he was named acting superintendent that he would be transferred sooner or later. But he stated that that action came because of his political alignment with those who challenged Red Lake Reservation government. Head, who was outspoken in his criticism of the BIA and tribal chairman Roger Jourdain before the trouble, says the Bureau wanted a neutral superintendent at Red Lake, someone who would be non-political. And in his words, "My views and dissents were made known long before I was named." Head replaced longtime Superintendent Celestine Moss, who had a reputation as being politically aligned with Jourdain. In other comments, Head said the dissidents are not upset with his transfer, that they are satisfied the government is investigating their grievances against Jourdain and other tribal leaders, and satisfied that their problems are of a legal nature and can be solved peacefully. According to Head, most tribal council members are on the reservation, but Jourdain has neither returned or contacted the BIA office there. Except for a written statement released last weekend, Jourdain has remained in hiding. In another development, a BIA spokesman today said a comprehensive audit of tribal financial records would begin next week by the Inspector General's office. Tom Oxendine said investigators will work with 25 to 30 FBI agents already on the reservation to interview witnesses. Agent John Shimoda says the investigation of alleged misuse of federal money is delayed somewhat because the FBI does not have immediate access to tribal records. Yesterday, agents quizzed ousted tribal treasurer Stephanie Hansen about her allegations against the tribal chairman. It was Jourdain's ousting of Mrs. Hansen as treasurer which triggered the May 19th protest led by Mrs. Hansen's husband, Harry. The FBI declined to say whether it has interviewed Jourdain. Attorney Dwayne Slayton of Hayward, Wisconsin, says that another hearing has been scheduled for Sunday on whether a recall election will be held for 3 leaders of the Bad River Band of Chippewa Indians. He says the 3 did not have legal counsel prior to a Wednesday night meeting they did not attend, a meeting at which it was decided to proceed with the recall. Slayton said that the 3 will have such counsel on Sunday. They are Tribal Chairman Eugene Big Boy, Vice Chairman Irma Nellis, and Secretary Virginia Vandeventer. Slayton said tribal members were disappointed that the 3 had not appeared at the Wednesday night meeting. Big Boy, meanwhile, urged protesters to end their nearly 2-week-old sit-in at the tribal offices. He said the demonstration was interrupting the tribe's health, welfare, and educational operations and had brought a halt to implementation of a $23,000 fish hatchery project. Gathering in the Great Spirit is the theme for the Twin Cities Catholic Indian Congress to be held tomorrow, Saturday, June 2nd, at Holy Rosary Church. The Congress will begin with registration in the church hall at 10 a.m. Conferences will include discussions on family life in the Great Spirit, and considerations will focus on the current need for spiritual values in daily life. A meal will be served at noon, and the concluding event of the day will be celebration of the Mass of the Great Spirit at 5 p.m. This annual spiritual gathering is planned primarily for Indian residents of the Twin Cities and is sponsored by the American Indian Worship Committee of the Archdiocese of St. Paul and Minneapolis. In celebrating the concluding liturgy, Deacon John Spears, a Red Lake Chippewa man and a permanent deacon of the Archdiocese, will join Father Ted Zern, director of the Archdiocesan Office of Indian Ministry. Holy Rosary Church is at 24th Street and 18th Avenue South in Minneapolis. With Indian News, I am Lanae Warren Sexton.